Hey, welcome back to Mama Tried. I'm Juliet, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 10 tips to help your picky eater start eating. So this video has been highly requested on my channel for quite some time now, but I needed to sit down and kind of figure everything out that I did for my daughter Luxi that made her such a good eater. So if this is the first video that you are watching from me, hi, I'm Juliet and I create content for mamas and I try new things so you don't have to. But one of the most requested things on my channel is toddler meal ideas, and I absolutely love cooking. I love making meals for her. So I've compiled a lot of things and a lot of things that I did with my daughter to see if I can hopefully help you. So let's go ahead and get started. But first I wanted to share with you how I make my new iced coffee. If you haven't heard of Javi coffee before, I am about to change your life. So seriously, this is coffee concentrate. It only takes about a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons depending on how strong you like your coffee, and you can just put it into whatever liquid you like. I like to add it into almond milk or oat milk, and then I just put in my creamer, stir it up, and I'm good to go. It is the perfect iced coffee. You could put it in a hot liquid as well to make a hot coffee, but it tastes amazing. It doesn't taste like instant coffee, and it is my new favorite way to make coffee. So if you're interested, I will have the link in the description for you, but let's get into the video. So I've kind of written everything down here because there is a lot to unpack, so forgive me if I'm talking too much or I'm too chatty. I'm gonna try my best. Tip number 1 is to create good eating habits from the beginning. So Luxi started eating at 7 months old. Before that, she was exclusively breastfed. She didn't have anything else but breast milk. That was something that I really wanted to do. It was not easy. I have videos on that as well. And I do have videos from the very beginning when I was creating baby food for Luxi. In one video, I created over 450 meals for her. So you should definitely check that out if you do have an infant and you're wanting to start creating those good eating habits. There's a good place to start. So something that I really wanted to do for Luxi was make her baby food at home. Now I understand that a lot of people do not have the time or resources for this, but this was very important to me, so I made time. It was also a lot less expensive than buying baby food in jars. Baby food in jars to me it contains too many things that I do not want my infant to have, especially when they're first starting to eat food. I started slowly introducing Luxi to new foods, and whenever I did that, I pureed all kinds of fruits and vegetables. Like I said, if you want more information on this, you should check out that video. But I would introduce her to a new food, and then I would introduce her to another new food about 3 days later. And I just kept the ball rolling on that, so that way she could expand her palate and try new foods, and that way we could rule out any allergies, which unfortunately Luxi has a lot of allergies, but that's not what today's video is about. So getting back into what I wanted to feed Luxi, one of the rules that I had for friends and family was Luxi does not eat anything else than what I'm giving her. Don't give her a french fry, don't give her sugar, don't give her pudding just because you want to, or ice cream. And I know it's extremely tempting to people, especially grandparents, because they want that funny reaction from the baby, but it was really important to me that Luxi started off with vegetables, so that way she got that good relationship with food and she didn't start off with something super processed or super sweet. So that is my first tip. Tip number 2 is that it is not too late. If you are way past the infant stages and now you have a picky toddler who throws their food on the floor all the time, that does not mean that you failed as a parent in any way, shape, or form. I'm not here to judge you. I'm only here to help you, and I hope that you will not compare your situation with my situation, because each child is different and each parent is different. So it is not too late. So if you think now, after saying the first tip, that oh my gosh, I didn't do any of those things, I'm gonna click off now, I still have some tips that are going to help you. So keep that in your mind, that it is not too late to start creating those good eating habits. Tip number 3 is creating a calm and happy environment for your child while they are eating. So just think about it. Whenever you are feeding your child, do you have the TV blaring so loud that the neighbors can hear it? Or are you talking on the phone with a friend while the dog is barking? And do you have other kids and maybe they're playing in the background? Children can only focus on one thing at a time depending on their age. And so if you're trying to get your child to eat a new food or something that they usually don't like, they're probably not going to be too interested if there is a lot going on around them. So whenever I started feeding Luxi real whole foods, I would make sure that the TV wasn't on, that I was fully engaged with her. Obviously, I was feeding her at that point. Even if you do baby-led weaning, it's the same type of thing. You want to create a calm and happy environment so that way your child can focus on the food and on nothing else. Because I see a lot of kids watching TV and mindlessly eating. And we wonder why there's a problem with obesity in America or just across the world. And that's because there's a lot of mindless eating going on. And I know you know what I'm talking about because I know you get in bed with some snacks and you watch your favorite show and you do the same thing. We want to create a happy and healthy relationship with your child and food. And that means no distractions while eating, especially while they're learning about new foods and learning to eat. Tip number 4 is offering them food that they don't like. And by this, I mean, I know you remember the first food that you gave your baby that they made that scrunched up face and they spit it out because they didn't like it. Are you going to offer that food to your child again? The answer should be yes. You should constantly offer those foods to your children, especially when they're little, because the more you offer it to them, the more likely they are to eat it. And I know whenever they're toddlers how frustrating it can be whenever you spend so much time making some food and it goes right off the high chair and splats onto the floor because they don't like it. So my suggestion would be whatever food it is that they don't like, start slowly adding it into a food that they do like. For instance, whenever Luxi was an infant and I was still making her pureed foods, she hated peas. I mean, absolutely hated peas. But she loved carrots. So I made carrots and I slowly started adding more and more peas into the carrots until she eventually got the hang of the taste of the peas, and now she loves peas. So that's just something to keep in mind. Just because they don't like it the first time doesn't mean they'll never like it again. Their taste buds are constantly changing, especially while they are widening their palate. So make sure that you are continuously offering those foods. Now, if you have a toddler and let's just say, you know, they're eating whole foods and they don't like strawberries. So on their plate with their other fruits, always give them strawberries. Maybe just a little piece of strawberry, but eventually they're going to try that strawberry and they may like it. So just because they don't like it the first time doesn't mean they're never gonna like it again. Tip number 5 is they don't like that. So as parents, it is our job specifically to teach our children new things, right? Because the job is turn them into a successful, independent, and happy adult, right? So whenever I say they don't like that, I mean, if you're with your child at a restaurant or at a family member's house and they offer your child something to eat and you say they don't like that, you're not putting that in your child's head that they don't like that. Even if their palate expands and maybe they'll like it eventually, now in their head, they don't like it. So just be mindful about the things that you say around your child because it is very important. Even if you don't think they can understand you, they eventually will understand you even before they can talk. I feel like that's really, really important. And so always stay positive about food around your children and never say they don't like that, because they may eventually like it. But since you planted that seed, it's going to grow, and now they'll probably never try it the older that they get. Tip number 6 is making food fun. This is one of my favorite things to do, and I'm sure that it shows on my channel, and that is making food fun. So especially for those meals that you don't think your child's going to like, I have these little shape cutters that make food so much fun. So I like to cut cheese with little stars and cut strawberries with little hearts and, you know, all these different things. I can cut them into cute little shapes. So it just makes eating time fun. Now that also can mean having your child pick out their plate or their utensils or their cup. Just have them pick it out so that way they have a choice in the matter, because you kind of have to put yourself in their shoes. They kind of feel helpless. You strap them in their high chair and you just hand them some food and tell them to eat it. Well, they didn't get to choose whether or not they wanted to eat that food. They didn't get to choose their plate. So have them choose something. It'll make them feel more in control. Tip number 7 is to explain everything. So like I said before, even when you think that your child cannot understand you, as an infant even, they will eventually understand you as long as you continue to explain things to them. So for example, with Luxi, when she was tiny, I mean a newborn, I started talking to her immediately. I didn't read any, mom books or how to be a parent books or anything like that. I just went with my gut and what I thought would be best for my child. And I feel like that's what you should do too. And I started explaining everything in the very, very beginning. Look at the sky, look at how blue it is, look at the clouds, things like that. The same thing goes with food. So if your child is very, very picky about food, explain to them what is in the food. So if you made some casserole and they look at it and they kind of poke at it and they don't want anything to do with it, start off naming the ingredients in the casserole. And I mean all of the ingredients, but start with the ones that they like. So for instance, if there's rice and cheese in that casserole and they love rice and cheese, start with, I think you would really like this casserole. It has rice in it, it has cheese in it, there's carrots in it. Just keep naming off the ingredients. It makes them feel more important and it makes them kind of feel bigger, like you actually care. And you should care. So, and I know a lot of people don't think about things like this, but it is important. And even if they're screaming, no, I don't want to eat it, they're still listening. And try to get them to calm down, even if it means taking their plate away from them and letting them calm down first. Show them how to eat it yourself and make those expressions. That's what I always did with Luxi. I would try the food myself and go, wow, I really like this food. I can taste the rice in it. I can taste the cheese in it, and I love cheese. I know it sounds kind of silly to say out loud like this and not talking to a child, but it really makes a difference, and you are teaching them. You are teaching them how to eat. So that's what I would do, is just start explaining everything. And this doesn't just go with eating. This goes with everything. Explain as much as you can, because they are a sponge. They soak up everything. Tip number 8 is to create a routine. So I know if you have read anything about infancy or toddlerhood or just children in general, one of the most important things that you can do for them is put them on a routine. So whatever that routine is, you have a morning routine for them. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you don't and they're acting out, you might want to start putting them on a routine, because it can be really frustrating when you don't know what's going to happen next. And that is one of the most important things whenever it comes to food. So start paying attention when you're feeding your toddler. So if at every meal they're falling asleep while they're eating, or they're throwing their food off the high chair and throwing a fit no matter what it is, maybe they're tired. Maybe they're over hungry, or maybe they're not hungry at all. So if you're wanting your child to try new foods or eat dinner, you can't be feeding them snacks 24/7, then sit them in their high chair and try to feed them dinner, because they're probably not hungry. I hope that makes sense, but I see this a lot with other children, and so people want to know, well, my kid won't eat. They're so picky and they won't eat. They hate their food. Well, try putting them on a routine. I have Luxi's full routine, I think, over on my Instagram. If you want to kind of base off of that, there's plenty of things that you can Google or look up whenever it comes to children and their routines. But meal routines are very important. Make sure that you're feeding them breakfast, lunch, and dinner around the same time every day, because if you're not, and you're doing snack times kind of everywhere, they may not be hungry, or they may be way too hungry. And at that point, they get hangry, just like us, you know? They're just little people. Tip number 9 is, what are you feeding them? So if you live a very busy lifestyle, which I feel like most people do these days, you could be just throwing snacks at your kid all day, you know? Here's some gummies. Here's a lollipop. Here's some chocolate. Anything to make them happy and content and fill their bellies up. Well, did you know that red dye 40 can cause a reaction in children and adults like ADD and ADHD? If you are constantly feeding your child full of things with dyes and high fructose corn syrup and sugar, that's probably not a good idea. And I could really dive deeper into this, but I'll just leave it at that. So if you're feeding your child all of these things, they have now created an appetite for these things. So now they are wanting that sweet candy, or they're wanting that really yummy gummy. They're really wanting sugar, honestly, and sugar is an addiction just like anything else. And so if you're constantly pumping your kid full of sugar and dyes, it's going to reflect in their personality, just like it would if they were an adult, because like I said before, they're just little people. So be mindful about the things that you put into your child's body. You are the parent, they are the child. They don't go to the grocery store and pick out these foods, you do. So if you're going and picking up Kool-Aid jammers for your 2-year-old and that's the only thing that they're drinking, or they're only drinking juice 24/7 and you're just pumping them full of sugar, they're not going to want to eat anything good for them, because they only want to eat the things that you're giving them that are full of sugar because they taste good. And I really can't blame them. So, and it's like I said before, it's not too late to stop. I would just slowly wean them off of it. So just an example, if you're giving them Kool-Aid jammers all the time, start by taking one away every day and replacing it with something else. There are so many different foods and alternatives for kids these days, and you can always stick with the raw form of things. You can give them just water. They don't need anything else. They don't need apple juice to poop. They don't need cranberry juice for their digestive system. They don't need juices at all. Now, it is fun to give them juices, and they do like juices, and it will help them go to the bathroom, but they don't need them. And I feel like that's a common misconception with children these days, and I really hate more than anything seeing juice in a bottle, because babies don't need juice. They just don't need it. You know, give them the things they need. Don't give them that. Tip number 10 is to give yourself grace. Being a parent is tough stuff. It really is. Babies don't come with instructions. A matter of fact, whenever Luxi was born, the doctor handed her over to us and said there are no returns or exchanges. Babies are hard. Toddlers are harder, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, you figured that out by now. Now, if you have reached a point in parenthood where you are so exhausted and so frustrated and so burnt out, reach out for help. Reach out for help to your spouse. If you don't have a spouse, reach out to a parent. If you don't have a parent, reach out to a sibling or a friend or someone at work, someone at church. Reach out to someone. Someone will be there to listen to you. And if you don't have anyone in your community at all, let's just say you're a single mom and all you have time to do is go to work, pick up your kids from daycare, take them home and feed them, and you have nobody to talk about any of these things, reach out and get some help. And I can't stress that enough. I know that being a parent is really, really tough, especially being a stay-at-home parent. I don't know the other side of it, but I know that being a stay-at-home parent can be a very lonely life. And so if you need help, make sure to reach out and get help. The happier you are, the happier your babies will be. And if you are trying your very best for them, they will see that. They know that. It doesn't matter what you're feeding them as long as they are happy, healthy, and safe. But you also need to be happy, healthy, and safe. So don't forget to take care of yourself. But those are all of the tips that I had for you guys. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Like I said, it was really highly requested on my channel, and if you're new to my channel and this is the first video that you're watching, be sure to check out some of my toddler meal ideas, and you'll see why I made this video, because I have little toddler taste test portions put in the video with my daughter Luxi eating the food and her reaction to the food, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job to create a good relationship with Luxi and food and help her do that, because I've struggled with a relationship with food for a very long time now, and one of my goals was to help Luxi create a healthy relationship with food. I feel like that's so important from the very beginning. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you got any tips from it that you enjoyed, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. It really helps support my channel. Also, be sure that you're subscribed with the bell notifications on, and I would really appreciate it if you would share this video to some friends and family, or even a mom's group. That would be awesome. But like I said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have an awesome day. Bye.